G'day there guys, and welcome back to another episode of r/Am I the Asshole? Let's go. Am I the asshole for telling my wife that my son is not a replacement for our dead baby? I know the title sounds really cruel, and maybe it was, and I'm wrong, but I don't mean for it to be. I, 37, have known my wife Janica, 39, since we were both in high school, and I've loved her since I was 13. When I was 21, I was just a boy when my father died, and my life spiraled and I broke up with Janica. I had to grow up fast to support my grandparents, mum, and sister. Even though we came from a rich family, I had to prove I could run the family. I made mistakes, and one of those was not treating my new girlfriend, AITA, at the time properly. I neglected her, cheated on her, yelled at her, and was a terrible person who tried to justify his bullcrap by saying that I missed my dad. I still do miss him every day. After I got therapy and realized how wrong I treated her, I tried to reach out and apologize, but this was 2005. It was easy to disappear and she was gone. Janica and I have 2 daughters, aged 8 and 5. Early last year, we were going to have a 3rd child, but my wife was in a car accident involving black ice late into her pregnancy, and our son died before he could be born. For a year, my wife cried herself to sleep every night. We have been to therapy, individual and couples, but it did not help. Then in January, I learned about my son Arian, 15. His mum died a month prior from some cancer, and his grandparents could not afford to support him, so they wanted a DNA test. But the boy looks just like my father, so of course he's my son. I took him in without the test, and my wife latched onto him. She has showered him with gifts, makes him special lunch every day, our daughters get cafeteria food, and tries to help him with homework to the point that our daughters get jealous. It really cuts me that I wasn't there for him, that I couldn't show him love, be there to change his diapers, help him when he was sick, take videos of him. I want to blame his mum, but he loved her and she's dead, so I can't help. We have been to therapy together, just he and I, and last week it broke my heart when he told the therapist he wished he'd died instead of his mum, because I felt the same way when my dad died, and he feels Janica is trying to replace his mum. I know my wife isn't trying to do that. So yesterday before bed, we had a talk which became a fight after I told her that Arian is not a replacement for our dead son, and he is his own person. She got very angry at me, called me an asshole, and hasn't talked to me all morning. She's at her parents' with Arian right now, and isn't coming back later in the day. I don't know if I was wrong and should apologize. I'd bring it up in therapy, but the shrink is on vacation. I'm sorry for the big backstory. It's just so you can understand where I came from when I said what I did. I was trying to protect Arian, so I don't feel wrong, but I didn't want to hurt Janica. Was I really an asshole to say that to her? Now in the comments, you're the asshole. You've conflated 2 unrelated matters. A dead child, which you don't seem to show any emotion about, and a woman working very hard to welcome a teenage boy into the family, to actively work against the negative stereotype of stepmother. What an amazing woman. Your comment was mean, and you sound jealous of your wife. If Arian has an issue, beyond sharing his feelings in a therapy session, then it sounds like your wife is capable and considerate enough to work through it with him. Yeah. What stood out to me is that his wife seems to be going above and beyond to be kind to a traumatized child, and OP went absolutely nuclear on her. There is no excuse in the world for that kind of cruelty. You're the asshole. Massively. And OP says, of course I feel emotion about my dead baby, but I can't put my feelings about him ahead of my family. Arian coming into our life is when my wife stopped crying for our dead baby. That's what I mean. She latched onto him like he was her second chance at having a son. And Miss Perhaps replies to OP, you don't know. You are assuming she is seeing a 15-year-old as an infant. You are not a psychologist. Instead of trying to maybe invite her to counseling, you are being a jerk. And OP says to that, she calls him things like baby boy and other baby names in affection. What was I supposed to assume after he said that? You know, my mum sometimes calls me baby girl, and I'm in my 30s. Glitter Sparkle Divine says, quote, I told her that Arian is not a replacement for our dead son, and he is his own person. Instead of having an honest conversation with her regarding your son's feelings, you went right to accusing her of something that wasn't even what your son was feeling. You're the asshole. OP replies, I can't just reveal to her what went on in therapy. That's a massive breach of my son's trust. Sharamum4 replies, so it's okay to be mean and cruel instead and twist the truth. Your wife is working hard to make him feel welcome, and although she may be going overboard, she is doing her best while grieving and getting zero support from you. And OP replies, no, you're right. It's not okay. I haven't read any of the comments yet, so it has probably been said already, at least once if not a million times, but don't you think it's possible that your wife is paying all this extra attention to your son because he just lost his mother and life as he knows it? That maybe she's doing the best in the ways she knows how to show him that he is loved and welcomed in the household? It sounds to me like she is empathizing, and maybe it's coming in strong, or your son is taking it in the wrong way, because I do think he's taking it the wrong way. She can do all of these things for a boy who just lost the only family he's ever known, and have it not be about the son that you two lost. You're ascribing motivations to her that you have no real proof of. You went to the worst case scenario of she's trying to replace his mum, instead of seeing, wow, she really cares for him and wants him to feel safe, comfortable, and loved here. Why would you think so little of your wife? I feel safe in saying that most people would prefer this version of a stepmother as opposed to the ones who treat surprise children as a burden and an intrusion into their family. You lucked out, and instead of being grateful, you threw her trauma and dead child in her face. You're the asshole. And OP replies, at my in-laws' house, I was pretty much faced with this before I apologized. What you said is pretty much right. It's close to my father's death anniversary, and I was overcome with fear that my son would be consumed by trauma like I was. Fear that your son will turn out to be as big as a piece of crap as you were can make you act like that piece of crap again. I did apologize, and it seems things are getting better. And now, onto the update. So, it's been a bit. Christmas passed and things have gotten a lot better. For people wondering why Janica took Arian to her parents, he likes being there. Her parents remind him of his grandparents. As for Arian's name, we are Brown, it's common. It's not his real name, but I didn't think twice about using it. After reading the initial comments, I realized how badly I messed up, and I took my daughters with me to my in-laws. My wife was with Arian in a bedroom, and he'd had a breakdown. He was crying really bad in her arms, saying he was sorry and he wanted his mum back over and over again. It scared me because this was me after my dad died. Apparently Janica tried talking to him about her smothering him, and it triggered him. We got him to calm down and go to sleep before we had our talk. I apologized right away for what I said to Janica. I told her I was too scared about Arian and too stupid to think about what I said. She pointed out to me she knows I'm stressed as it's my father's death anniversary this month, but it wasn't an excuse for what I said, no matter how out of character it was. She admitted she let grief for our baby get the best of her for a while, but pointed out I repressed all of my grief to the point where I acted like it wasn't also my baby. I wanted to say that she was wrong, but she isn't. Some of you realized that, and you don't even know me. I admitted I don't know what to do, and would do whatever she thought was best. She decided we would restart our couples therapy so we can process our grief. Thankfully, she forgave me because I guess after nearly 25 years, she can tell I'm really sorry. Janica agreed we couldn't let the girls feel envious of Arian, so when school comes back, I'll wake up early with her to make lunch for everyone. We'll help everyone with homework together during study hour and anything else too. I see now it's not that Janica focused on Arian over the girls, but that I didn't step up to help her give them all equal time. As for Arian, he's agreed to let Janica join our therapy sessions, and hopefully soon the girls too. On Christmas, I got him a big portrait of his mother and had Janica sign it as being from her. I think it reassured him that she isn't trying to replace his mother because he gave her a huge hug and said thank you mum after opening it. I hung it up in his room by his bed. He was also happy when Janica asked about taking him clothes shopping for family photos, which he refused to be in before. He has seemed happier as I'm writing this. He is playing with his sisters on their new PS4. I know it'll take time, but I want him to stay happy and know that he's loved. I want him to be a better man than I am, and I know I need to be a better man for Janica. So I guess, thanks guys. Reading your comments was the kick in the ass I needed. And now in the comments, to state it bluntly, you have a lot of issues to sort through, but you absolutely deserve credit for having enough self-awareness to recognize this, a willingness to proactively address it through therapy, and enough humility to admit when you F up. That makes you a better person than 99% of the assholes who post here, and I respect it. And OP says, I'm in the 1% of assholes, but yeah, I guess looking back, I can see that somehow I realized that in this situation, I didn't know best, and maybe admitting that was the best I could do. And yeah, I got issues. Hopefully I can work through them all. Don't worry, my friend. I too have issues. Hell, I've got so many issues, I've got a subscription. Knowing about them is half the battle. It's so nice reading about people like you, who had an issue, worked through it, and came out stronger and closer as a family. You are all great for communicating maturely and putting an effort in uplifting each other so that everyone gets to have a happy relationship with one another. And OP says, I give my wife all of the credit on that end. This past year has been a testament to just how amazing she is. Just make sure that you tell her that too, more than once, twice, or multiple times this next year, from that really honest part of yourself. I feel she truly deserves to hear that from you as you all, as a family, go forward. She sounds pretty awesome and loving, and you were lucky to have her. This is a great update. I'm glad everything is starting to look brighter for all of you. I'm glad it worked out. Love all the therapy that's happening here. Not to add even more therapy, but have you ever talked to someone about your dad? I also lost my father when I was young, and I understand how devastating it is. But it's not necessarily sustainable to be so stressed about the month anniversary 15 years later that you hurt the people you love and struggle to parent. It is clear you have good intentions and a lot of other stresses, but better understanding of your own grief might help you support your son, and to avoid projecting how you felt onto him. Everyone copes differently. And OP replies, truthfully, not as much as I should have, and I often avoided conversations about it. Since Janica and I weren't together during the time when he died, she doesn't really ask me about it. But I'm sure that it'll be brought up at couples therapy, and it isn't something I'm going to try and avoid from now on. I would maybe even bring it up yourself, as you know that some of your emotional reactions were caused because of your grief from your father and the trauma of losing him. I'm so sorry for your loss, even these many years later, but I'm proud of you for figuring out how to fix everything. And OP replies, that's a good idea. I don't like confronting the person I became after he died and before Janica pulled me out of the hole that I was in, but for a moment there when I said that stupid, selfish thing to her, I feel like I was becoming that guy again. So you're right, I guess it's on me to own up to it. And they reply to OP, that takes a lot of bravery, and I hope it goes well for all of you. And perhaps, if it helps, don't consider it a confrontation. You are changing and embracing that. Consider it a reflection of who you are becoming and who you want to be for your family. Am I the asshole for wanting to cut my wife's spending money, mine too, to hire help? I am 29 male and my wife is 28 female. We have 2 kids, 5 male and 3 male, and I'm planning on a 3rd kid. I work 70 to 80 hours on average, and my wife is a stay-at-home mum. I make really good money, even for USA standards, and we live in Europe in a country where cost of living is way lower. The argument that me and my wife are having is that I keep telling my wife I don't have time to iron my clothes, etc., and since she is a stay-at-home mum, she should do it. But I know that having 2 kids makes her job as hard as mine, so I offered to get us a nanny or help for our house, but it would mean both of our spending money would be cut by around 10 to 15%. I manage all of our finances, and we get the same spending money after investing in savings, but my wife is angry that I would cut her spending money too. I don't have time to do things around the house. I'm trying to help my father retire since he is turning 70 next year, and he helped me a lot. He bought my first apartment when I was a student where my wife lived too during uni. I don't help him financially, I am just slowly taking over his company as well. I have 2 brothers, but only one works there, and I'm the only one qualified to actually take over, according to my brothers. That means I pretty much have 2 jobs. That's why I work so much, but it also means that we have a lot of spending money. Around 6,500 to 7,500 euros each month. Note that spending money is different than money for paying everything like groceries and things for kids. We have separate accounts for that. My wife is really into designer brands, etc., and spends all of her money on clothes shopping usually. She thinks I should only cut my own spending money if I want to hire nanny or help. I disagree and think we should both have our spending money cut. I got a call from my sister-in-law, and she said that I'm being controlling by wanting to cut my wife's spending money. So I'm starting to honestly doubt myself, because I don't want to financially abuse my wife, as my mother used to do that to me. And now in the comments, not the asshole. The moment you both decided to have kids, they became the priority. That's sacrificing most of your things for them. She is being selfish. Don't feel bad for having to cut off her spending money. She's just being immature. It's only fair that you both do it together for the greater good of the family. Plus, you have a kid on the way. And OP replies, not yet. Third one, we are just planning on having. When I am at home, I rather try bonding with my kids and my wife over doing chores. I try to get us date night once a week, but it's usually every 2 weeks, and sister-in-law helps with babysitting. She has her own room in our house. She often stays over because of issues with her boyfriend, but they are not really telling me what's going on. Honestly, you could save more money by not having a 3rd kid, but not the asshole for wanting to reduce both your spending to have help around the house. And OP says, we both want 3 kids. But when I first started making money and taking care of our finances, I took into account having 4 kids and how much money we need to save, etc. So maybe I could dip into those as well to hire help. But I rather not in case we get kids similar to me. Total surprise. Age gap between me and my brother is huge. Not the asshole. You actually sound thoughtful and your solution is reasonable. You could try explaining to your wife that you could make time to iron and help the kids by working less, but this would also cut into spending money for both of you. Your wife sounds a bit entitled, to be honest. Good luck. And OP replies, I sadly don't really have an option to work less, since even though I do most of what my father did in his company, it's going to be split between me and my 2 brothers, and since my wife wants to maintain our lifestyle and send our kids to school abroad, I have to work 2 jobs. 3 if you count managing our investments. Not the asshole. I was reading your post and I saw this. 6,500 to 7,500 euros each month for spending. I understand that this money is for having fun, like spending wherever you want. I mean, like all house bills are paid and there's still this money left for spend with no worries? Come on, this is a ton of money. 10% of this is 750 euros, and even if you spend 2,000 on a nanny, having 5,000 euros just for your own pleasure is a ton of money. I don't know if I'm too broke, but dude, that's a ton of money per month. It shouldn't be a sacrifice at all. See, I earn 2,000 reais per month. I pay rent, and still, there's enough money for me to have all the fun that I want. She's being a selfish miser with a thing that can benefit both of you. Unless there's another reason behind it that she doesn't want to tell you, talk to her in a loving way and explain why do you think it's necessary and how much you love her and you just want to have lots of quality time with your family. And she's not a worse mother because of that. And now onto the update. So I'm not gonna lie, this is a surprising update. I've taken a few days off before Christmas with my wife, so we can spend 2 days without the kids and the family craziness. I had a convo with one guy on here in private, and I realized that my wife doesn't usually behave like this. So I asked her about it and what's actually going on, etc. Turns out, for the past few months, my wife was giving money to her sister to help her move out from her boyfriend, whom I never really liked, if I'm gonna be honest, and I never knew why. Well, it turns out he's abusive, and as it turns out, my sister-in-law is pregnant. At least now I know why I had a bad feeling about him, other than him trying to borrow money from me constantly. If you wonder why she didn't tell me this, since obviously we have the means to help her, it's because I helped her sister-in-law with some of her debt in the past, and I told her family that I don't want to be used as a piggy bank. I invested in my brother-in-law's plumbing business. My wife knew that this situation would be different, but her sister didn't want to ask me for money. Look, I'm not sure where her sister thinks my wife gets her money from, but I digress. I can say it here freely since my sister-in-law's boyfriend doesn't use Reddit, and after what she told me about it, I've hired a PI, and we have moved her to our house. She already had a room there, by the way, and we're going to help her with getting her own apartment in January. When it comes to the main topic, we are hiring some help and starting to look into getting a nanny for weekends. We changed some things in our budget since we are ahead in most of our goals. Also, some people had some things to say about my wife. While sure, it sounded ridiculous that my wife didn't want to lose her designer clothes money, and comments were mostly respectful, I had some nasty private messages about my wife not deserving the money she gets, her being a freeloader, etc. It was her decision to be a stay-at-home mum, but she also had great futures in finance ahead of her, so she's not a slacker. One of the reasons I love her is how hard-working she always was. She's also a great teacher to our child. Our 5-year-old is so ahead in math without her pressuring him hard, it's honestly amazing. I saw her teach him and making it fun, which I honestly don't know how she does it, because he enjoys it. Also adding it last second here, I talked to my sister-in-law, and before I even mentioned it, she herself told me she's sorry about the financial abuse comment. She was just scared about the situation she is in, which is understandable. So yeah. Here is an update, I read the rules, I hope it's good enough and won't be removed. And now in the comments, it is not an ideal discovery, but I would say this ended well. It's really good that you and your wife were able to discuss things. Yeah, but in the previous post, OP's sister-in-law is the one who called OP an asshole and a financial abuser, and his wife was supporting her the whole time. Damn. Makes sense because sister-in-law would lose her financial line. Not the best behavior from sister-in-law, but understandable given that she needed the wife sending money as her lifeline. Yeah, sounds like desperation on sister-in-law's part. Doesn't excuse it, but does explain it. Sounds like she has a good support system, including OP. I'm glad she was able to get away from that guy and that they hired someone to help out. And OP says, I'm fine with it. She was sorry about it. People will do stupid things when they are scared. I don't blame her. You shouldn't judge people too hard for their actions when they were backed into the corner. You sound like a good person, OP. Wishing you and your family the best. Congratulations on the positive outcome, and I hope things get better with the sister-in-law. Hopefully you and your wife can be more open so situations like this won't happen again. Ignore the Reddit haters. It's great to hear that you and your wife have sorted this out. What a twist though. I remember reading that thread and the toxicity towards your wife was pretty vicious, but also a small bit understandable. Glad to hear that your wife was doing this for a justified cause. Also, good that you have asked her why she didn't let you know about helping her sister. Seems like a miscommunication that happens. Maybe let her know that she should feel comfortable talking to you about these sort of things, and consider working on making yourself more approachable when it comes to your wife letting you know. Anyway, at least it has turned out well. Hopefully you and your wife can use the extra time that the hired help affords to strengthen your already strong relationship. Also, let your sister-in-law know that you and your wife are there for her if she needs support. Best wishes. And OP replies, honestly, I have my dad to thank for teaching me about communication in relationships. I am often not the greatest fan of my mum, but he has been married to her for close to 50 years now, and they never fought, which is insane to me, considering how much me and my brothers did fight with my mum. And that's where I'm going to leave today's episode, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.